This is the Talking Sports Podcast, episode 20, and I'm your host, Peter DiBiasi, alongside Rocco Trumpbour. Today, we'll be bringing you another episode on the YouTube channel, and we'll be recapping this past Wednesday's NBA draft, 2020 NBA draft, as well as give you our winners and losers from this Wednesday's draft, which was very exciting. So a lot of great young players make their dreams come true, and a lot of our teams build for the future.
And please follow us on the Instagram and Twitter. We really appreciate it. And don't forget to subscribe.
Yeah, make sure you like and comment and subscribe down below. We appreciate it. We have over 550 subscribers. Keep it up. I know we get a lot of views on these videos, more than 1,000, almost 3,000 over 3,000 on the Hugh Jackson video. So we appreciate that. But if you're watching the video and you're not subscribing, I don't know what you're really doing, because if you guys all subscribed, we have over 1,000 views and you don't subscribe, I don't know what the heck you're doing, but whatever. Sports cases. If you guys want a sports case, Christmas is coming up. Make sure you go to sportscases.com. Link will be in the description. Use code TalkingSportsPD for 10% off. Who doesn't love a great discount? Get a great phone case. The cool phone cases for MLB, NBA, NHL, NFL, soccer. If you like soccer, go to sportscases.com and use code TalkingSportsPD at checkout for 10% off. Link will be in the description. JR, NBA draft time. It was on Wednesday. Virtual draft, a little weird. Some of the green screens were a little weird, but it wasn't a normal field, but it was better than nothing. It was similar to the NFL draft. JR, you're a Thunder fan. I'm a Chicago Bulls fan. Give me your thoughts on what the Thunder did on Wednesday.
Well, I think the main thing for the Thunder, and everyone knows, is we have a ton of first-round picks. And I was also very happy that during the draft, we traded Danny Green, and we were able to get rid of Ricky Rubio, who I'm not a big fan of Ricky Rubio. So I was very happy we were able to turn that into picks. We had like 3 first-round picks, and we bundled 2 of them, traded up for Alexev Pokusevsky. I am not really familiar with him, but he kind of reminds me of a Porzingis kind of. 7 feet, he could shoot, he could dribble. He's very, very raw right now. He's very young. I think he was one of the youngest players in the draft. So I trust Sam Presti. I want to see what Alexev Pokusevsky brings to the table. Hopefully we don't, because he's not going to come in. We're a rebuilding team. He's not going to come in. He doesn't have pressure on him. He's going to be able to probably come off the bench, role player first couple of years of his career. So I'm happy. I like his skill set. He could end up being very good because this league's turning into 3-point power forwards. I could shoot 3-pointers. So I'm not too familiar with him, but I'm hoping he could turn into something like a Porzingis, or that could just stretch the floor for us. And then we also got a really good pick in the second round, Theo Maledon. I actually projected him in the first round. He's a French point guard. I'm interested in seeing what he could do. I know Tony Parker is big inspiration for him, and he's been working with Tony since growing up in France and playing basketball there. I think he played for Tony Parker's club team. So I'm actually really excited for that. Hopefully he's like a Tony Parker, very high IQ, doesn't really turn over the ball, just knows how to win. And I want to see what he could bring to the table too.
Yeah, I like the pick in the first round. If we ever can figure out how to pronounce his name, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. You got that. But Theo Maledon in the second round, I like that because I think he's a young point guard. I believe he's only 18, 19 years old. He's from France, so he's really raw. And I like you in your mock draft, and I had him in my mock draft in the first round pick. I know a couple months ago he was projected a lottery pick, and I get just because playing in France, less people look at you. Less people see you, and because of the lockdown and everything, you probably got less minutes, and not just minutes, just opportunities to play. Also, Cassius Winston in the second round. I know I'm a little higher on Cassius Winston than you. Maybe he was just a good college player, but I thought he was an exciting player to watch in college. He is undersized, but I like those type of players getting picked in the second round. But yeah, Cassius Winston. I thought the Thunder overall had a good draft. Took some good project players because you really don't need a player. Well, obviously you want a player that can produce right now because that's what everybody wants, but you're not in dire need of you're one piece away. You're more than one piece away from being a contender in the West, especially because it's the Western Conference, which is insane. So yeah, my favorite pick was the Theo Maledon pick. I just think he can learn, and he is a good projected point guard for the future.
Yeah, I agree. And getting him in the second round was a steal. For Cassius, I don't see him being more than just a two-way player, kind of. But yeah, no, he was a very good college player, so he brings something to the table right away. He
Yeah,
doesn't really have that much potential, but you know what you're getting out of him.
and I think the Theo Melton pick is a developmental pick, and I think that was my favorite pick in the draft. So, props to the Thunder taking, I think, a first round talent in the second round, and he's on a cheaper contract, non guaranteed. So if he stinks, you
Yeah.
can, but it makes it cheaper. So that was probably your best pick overall, or value pick in the draft. Moving on to my Chicago Bulls. As you guys know, the Bulls were taken fourth overall. I had no idea going into the draft. In my mock draft, if you haven't checked that out, kind of late to check that out, but that was our most recent YouTube video. I had Danny Advigia going number 4, a small forward. And then I actually thought we were going to take him at 4, but doing more research, because you got to do research into the players. Just listening to other people's opinions is not the best thing for you. But I knew the Bulls. Obviously, if James Wiseman, LaMelo Ball, Anthony Edwards fell to number 4, the Bulls were going to grab that. But taking Patrick Williams, a small forward, a two-way player, I know you're really high on him. I know you were high on him
Yeah.
maybe a day or two before we were talking about this. And I was like, because that morning I woke up and I saw a lot of mock drafts about Patrick Williams. I'm like, oh, geez, I got to figure out who the heck this guy is. I had him going 16. No, 16. I know you had him at 11, I want to say, in
I
your
had
mock.
him going to the Spurs. Yeah.
And I read after the fact that the Pistons at 7, who took Killian Hayes, we'll talk about them in a little bit, were trying to trade up to number 3 to take Patrick Williams. But the Hornets obviously weren't moving because LaMelo Ball was there, and you're not going to move off of LaMelo Ball. And I know the Spurs at 11, like you projected him, were they really wanted him to. They wanted to move up, but the Bulls took him at 4. Look, he's a good two-way player. He's athletic. He can defend. He did come off the bench, and that's his biggest knock. But I don't think that's the biggest thing, because you pointed out to one of our group chats that Devin Booker came off the bench, and if he turns out to be a player, obviously a different player than Devin Booker, but the player of Devin Booker's level, sign me up. I'll take that right now. And you also got to remember, the Coach Hamilton, the coach of Florida State, one of the Bulls reporters asked him, like, what are your thoughts that people saying he didn't, he came off the bench, just start every game, and he said, quick couple sentences, he said he finished every game, and that was his point, that he finished every game. He played the minutes that were most important. That's fine. He was a freshman. What are you going to take? He's a projected player. I think we needed a 3. And the thing about Denny, like how I would like him at 3, as a 3 at number 4, but the problem is can he not play defense? Like Luka Doncic is a great NBA scorer. He can pass the ball, but everybody forgets he's not a good defender. He's not a good defender. And then this is the knock on a lot of European players. They don't play defense. And the problem is, if Denny doesn't turn out to the scoring and passing ability of Luka, which I don't think he will be, then is he just an average NBA player that can score 15 points a game but give up 25? And then there's no production there at all. So I think the Bulls took a guy that can defend. If he can't figure out his offensive game, at least he can defend. But I like Patrick Williams. He's the youngest player in the NBA draft. Or one of the youngest players in the NBA draft. I don't know exactly. So I'm happy for Patrick Williams. I'm excited for him to do some good things. And in the second round, we took Marko Smaninovic. He's a 7'1" center from Montenegro. That was interesting. I bet he's a draft and stash kind of player. So we'll see if we ever see him in the NBA. If not, it's whatever. It's a second round pick. But hey, I'm happy with the Bulls. I know some people were happy, some people were not, but I'm excited, and you got to trust our new GM and president and new head coach. They know what they're doing. So, Bulls, I'm happy, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like the first 3 picks were kind of set in stone, and then after that, it was like fair game. And I knew the Pistons and the Bulls and the Spurs a little bit were interested in Patrick Williams. I know they were also interested in Denny. However, I think you guys went more potential rather than, because I think Denny, people just know that he's going to fit in. He's going to be a kind of a role player. I saw more potential in Patrick. He's 3-and-D. He's got the raw talent. So you went for potential, and I really like that pick. He reminds me a little bit of like Kawhi Leonard. That's why I thought he might go to the Spurs. I know the Spurs know what to do with those type of players. But yeah, I really like him. 6'8", play defense. He can lock down your the best small forwards that you've been playing in the East. He's not going to be a playmaker per se, but that's why you got Zach LaVine. That's why you got Kobe White. So many people didn't know him, so that's why they're saying it's a bad pick. But the potential that he shows in that frame, I think that's why the Bulls picked him at forward. So I definitely like that pick.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Okay, moving on we're gonna give you winners and losers. We love our winners and losers on Talking Sports Podcast. If you know, on Apple Podcasts on our week NFL previews, we always give you 3 winners and 3 losers. This week we'll be giving you for the NBA draft 2 winners and 2 losers that we think came out of the draft. And just to kind of let everybody know, this is a lot of projecting from our point of view. Obviously, we don't know if this guy's going to be a superstar, not a superstar. It's a team's job to decide or draft, but we're projecting on if we think this is a good draft or not a good draft. So nothing's set in stone here. We might be wrong on these, but this is what we think. JR, give me your first winner of the 2020 NBA draft.
My first winner of the 2020 NBA draft, I'm going with the Denver Nuggets. They selected RJ Barrett with the 24th pick in the draft, and that is a big fall from where I thought he would go. I had him at like 12 to the Kings or around there. But RJ Barrett was the 5th best player out of high school. People forget that. He went overseas, so that really hurt his draft stock, I think. He's still raw talent. He's so athletic. And the Denver Nuggets also picked Michael Porter Jr. and Bol, who are also valued as really high picks coming out of high school and kind of dropped. So they kind of know how to work with these players. And I think this is just a good fit for him because, yeah, they got Jamal Murray already. They got Will Barton. They got Gary Harris. So there's really not much pressure on him as there would have been if he was a lottery pick. So I think he's 6'5". He's a playmaker. He's got incredible athleticism. I think this is a steal for the team like the Denver Nuggets, who are trying to make a run in the playoffs for a championship. So by adding like an RJ Hampton, there's not much pressure on him, and he could get fit as like a role player and start his career and kind of work from there. And I just think the Nuggets know how to work with these types of players. They got a lot of plug players like Will Barton, Torrey Craig. So I think this is just a very good fit for him. And then they also drafted Zeke and Anaji from I think Arizona, yeah. He start off as a backup center to Jokic. I think he's coming off the bench. He could do some damage for them. And I think overall they didn't have like the talent that maybe some other winners might have, like top lottery picks and stuff like that. But for a team that's contending for a championship, late round picks, I think they definitely hit it with RJ Hampton. I think a lot of potential there. And then Zeke and Naj, definitely a good pick for them too.
I agree with that. I like RJ Hampton. I know in the beginning of the draft or process, maybe this is 4 or 5 months ago, he was projected lottery pick. So to get him at 24, similar to like the Theo Melton thing with the Thunder.
So definitely.
My first winner of the draft is the Detroit Pistons. The Detroit Pistons had 3 picks in the first round, a couple of them via trade. They took at number 7, Killian Hayes, who I was super high on. I think he might be one of the best players in this draft. I just think I see good potential there. He's tall, he's athletic, he can get to the hole. I know he's from France, so a lot of less people have seen him, but he's also super young. The Pistons do need a point guard for the future. They have Derrick Rose basically for 1 more year, and I know they're trying to trade Derrick Rose. But yeah, look, if the Pistons want to contend for the future, they need it's a point guard driven league or a guard driven league, if you want to say, and getting Killian Hayes for your future is good. And I think he projects to be a really good NBA player. I'm not going to say he's going to be the best NBA player out of this draft, but there's something about this kid that I really like. I don't know. There's just something that pops to me. I think the Pistons hit. I do wish the Bulls took him at 4 if we needed a point guard situation. We don't need a point guard situation, but if the Bulls needed a point guard, I think Killian Hayes would have been awesome at number 4. And I think a couple other teams kind of missed out, like the Knicks and the Suns on Killian Hayes, but nothing they can do about that. They could have traded up. Number 16, the Pistons took Isaiah Stewart. I do think that was kind of a reach because I had him going at number 25, but I do think he projects to be a good NBA center. I don't think he's going to be a superstar. I know he was a super high recruit out of high school. He kind of underperformed at Washington. I had him going late first round. They might have reached for him here, but it's not the end of the world because they also had a pick at number 19. So if you would have took him at 19, there'll be a little less of a reach. So it doesn't really matter in my eyes. I think Isaiah Stewart's going to be a good NBA center. I don't see superstar potential out of him, but I think he'd be a good NBA center. And then Sadiq Bey at 19. I think he's going to be a good NBA player because I think he's already developed. Jay Wright pushes these guys out develop. I don't see really superstar potential out of Sadiq Bey, but I see a good NBA player, like a kind of like a Trevor Ariza type of NBA player, maybe even a Robert Covington who can actually shoot a little better, even though they both are good shooters from the outside. And then they took Saben Lee at number 38. Don't know enough about him, but a guard from Vanderbilt. Second round pick, high second round pick. So that's good. The biggest thing I take away is Killian Hayes at number 7. I thought that was a great pick. And then at number 19, Sadiq Bey. Because I had Sadiq Bey going in the top 15. So I was much higher on Sadiq Bey than other people. So I think Sadiq Bey and Killian Hayes makes this draft an A+ for the Pistons.
I have one question for you. So you do talk about the 16th pick and like how Isaiah Stewart, you don't see him. It could have been like a reach, right?
Yeah.
Like, so they gave up a protected future first round pick and then $12.8 million of cap to acquire that pick and pick Isaiah Stewart. So would you say that's a win for that pick or a loss for? I know overall the Pistons definitely had a good draft, but for that 16th pick, like, was that value worth it?
The thing is, yeah, $12 million is a ton of cap space. You said
Yeah.
12 million, right?
12,
Yeah.
12.8. Yeah.
I do think that could have been. I read that could have been a little bit of reach. That's why this draft, I was a little less as after watching the draft, I was like, the Pistons won A+, and then I was like, okay, Isaiah Stewart. But if they took Isaiah Stewart at 19, I don't really think that would have been a problem. I know the future first round pick's not bad, but they must see something in Isaiah Stewart. He was a top recruit out of high school, so there is tons of potential.
Oh yeah.
And he only played 1 year in college. I just didn't see enough in college to say he's going to be a superstar NBA player. But he's big, he's tall, he can finish on the hoop, he can defend, he can rebound. Like, he's going to be a good NBA player. And I like to see what the Pistons do with him. And there's going to be a lot of spot for minutes there because they really don't have a lot of big men. But yeah, that's the one thing that I was like, okay, Pistons, a little bit of reach, but they like Isaiah Stewart. They must really like him and take him at 16, where you probably could have had him at 19. But and they took Sadiq Bey at 19. I think taking Sadiq Bey at 19 overweights the Isaiah Stewart pick if you don't like it, and that kind of just pushed me to the top. But that's a good point.
No, yeah, I agree. So my first loser of the night, draft night, was the Houston Rockets. So I understand like James Harden's having there's trade talks about him, and then Russell Westbrook, his future is uncertain. But they traded Robert Covington to the Portland Trailblazers for a 16th pick and Trevor Ariza, which, okay, I was not a fan of that pick, but yeah, you're getting a 16th pick and you're getting a good player, Trevor Ariza, out of it. But I really do like Covington. But then they flipped that, like we were just talking about, and then traded the 16th pick and Trevor Ariza to the Detroit Pistons for future first round picks. So once again, the Rockets don't have a first round pick in the NBA draft. And the last first round pick they had was Sam Decker at number 18 in 2015. That was the last time the Rockets held a first round pick. The reason why they did this trade is because this thing called the mid-level exception, where so now they could go after players in free agency or a player and not have to give them the minimum salary and give them actually a contract. But I know like my loser is someone who didn't even get a draft pick. However, like the Rockets, I see where they're thinking like, okay, we're in a win now mindset. So what, like the 16th pick in the draft is not really going to help us. But I feel like as a franchise, you can't just bank on one year, especially if like James Harden doesn't even want to be there, reports are, and then you're thinking about trading Russell Westbrook, because that's just going to kill your franchise once Harden and Westbrook are done with the Rockets. You really got nothing there. You always got to have a backup plan and always got to have hope for the future. So I don't know. That's why they're my loser of the draft. I feel like even though you're a contender and you're trying to win a championship, having a 16th pick could turn out very well for you. And just having young players on that team rather than just going out and buying another player, just fix a hole, fix a need. It's a short-term fix, and I feel like they're not even thinking about long-term. So that's why they're my loser of the draft.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. I think because Russell Westbrook's getting older, we don't know how long Russell Westbrook and James Harden are going to be actually on that team. If they eventually leave after a year or two, and you got nobody, no young players to build around, maybe take R.J. Hampton there, or Tyrese Maxey, or Isaiah Stewart, or Sadiq Bey. Take a young NBA player. Not going to cost you that much. There's no need to go find a free agent that's going to be there for 2 years. Quick fix. If you don't win anything, he's gone, and then you got nothing to build around. So
Exactly.
I completely agree with you. My first loser. Don't kill me, Knicks fans, but it's the New York. This is a better draft than they have had in recent years. RJ Barrett last year was a fine pick. I think RJ Barrett's going to turn out to be a good NBA player. But Kevin Knox, terrible. Frank Ntilikina is terrible. So those are the couple things they missed on. The problem with the Knicks pick at 8, I think Obi Toppin, I think we talked about this, is going to be a fine NBA player. This is not an Obi Toppin bash thing. He's from New York. We're both from New York. There's nothing wrong with Obi Toppin. Great story. No offers out of high school, 0-star recruit, had to play a 5th year in high school, went to Dayton, was forced to sit out his freshman year. Like, it's a great story. Great college player. The problem is, I think this is a guard-driven league. You see teams that win championships um, have guards or small forwards or guys that can shoot the ball and get to the hole quickly. I think Obi Toppin projects more as a 4 than a 3 because I don't think he is quick enough to guard a 3. He does shoot the ball better than I actually originally thought. The problem is you already have Julius Randle, who I kind of see Obi Toppin kind of being like a Julius Randle with a lefty. Maybe I just see a lefty out of him, and maybe that's why. But I think Obi Toppin's gonna be a fine NBA player. Like, I don't think there's anything like, he's not gonna be a superstar. He's not gonna be bad, but there's no, like, I think he's gonna be a fine NBA player. That's basically what I'm trying to get here. The problem with the Knicks is you had Tyrese Halliburton, who went number 12 to the Kings, who I am super high on. He's a 6'5" point guard. When do you get 6'5" point guards just throwing in the NBA draft past the number 7 pick? Like, usually they're gone by now. I know he had an injury, but he's a pass first point guard who can really defend at Iowa State. We were talking about he's a bigger version of Chris Paul. I think he's a bigger version of Chris Paul. So why wouldn't the Knicks take a point guard where, yes, Obi Toppin's gonna be good, but if you don't have a guard to lead your team, it's gonna be tough. I think RJ Barrett's good at the 2. You could have got him a running mate with Tyrese, and that would have been a sick duo, a sick young duo. I actually would have watched it. I think Knicks fans would have been on board for a Tyrese Halliburton and RJ Barrett young duo. But now you got either Dennis Smith Jr., who's turned out to be a bust, and Frank Ntilikina at point guard, who's turned out to be a bust. They cut Alfred Payton. So you really got no point guards that anybody really trusts in the NBA. You need young point guards, and I think not taking Tyrese Halliburton at number 8 was a mistake. You also missed out on Killian Hayes. I know that's not your fault, but that stinks because I think he would have been great at number 8, but he went number 7. They did take Emmanuel quickly, number 25. I didn't have him go in the first round. I know a lot of people didn't have him going in the first round. I like Emmanuel quickly. I thought he was a good college player. I think he can defend. He's fast. His name is quickly. He better be fast. But the problem is somebody pointed out to me, you know who, 40% from 3. The problem is he only shot 4 threes a game, so that's definitely a misleading stat. Shooting 4 threes a game, make 40%, so make a little more than 1 a game. And he only shot 40% from 2-point from the field from 2-point range, minus 3-pointer. So 40%, that's not good shooting from the field for 2-pointers. But I think Emmanuel quickly was kind of a reach, but at 25, not the end of the world. But I think just not taking Tyrese Halliburton at number 8, but Obi Toppin's gonna be a fine NBA player. Nothing against Obi Toppin. I don't think he's gonna be a bust. I think like he's bust. Like, he's not gonna be a bust. I think that maybe that's why the Knicks took him, because I don't think there's any chance he's a bust, because I think he's gonna be a good NBA player. But I think Tyrese Halliburton with RJ Barrett would have been a nice duo, and I think they needed a point guard for the future. So that's why the Knicks are my first loser.
No, I agree with you. I think, like we said, he's probably like a safe pick. But
Yeah.
for the Knicks situation, you got to like look for the future, look for potential more. And plus, you didn't mention Julius Randle's on their team. Bobby Portis. They have a ton of power forwards, and now they're even looking at Gordon Hayward in free agency. So if you get a guy like Tyrese, you have RJ. Maybe you do get Gordon Hayward. Then you have a solid 1 through 3,
Yeah.
and then you got Mitchell Robinson at the center. Like, that's like a very good team for the future. So I agree with you. Yeah.
And then one more thing before you go to your second one. Like, I totally forgot about Mitchell Robinson. Him and Tyrese running pick and roll would have been amazing. And then you have Art. It just doesn't make sense why you take Obi. And it's a safe pick. You need guards, and I think Tyrese Halliburton projects to be a good NBA player. Okay, Jared, who's your
Like
second?
this starting 5. Wait, Tyrese, RJ. Let's say they
Yeah.
do get Gordon Hayward,
Yeah.
Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. That's a solid starting 5.
In the Eastern Conference, you're sneaking. If RJ Barrett takes the next step and Halliburton's good right away,
Yeah.
you're sneaking an NBA. You're sneaking a playoff spot. Okay, who's your second winner of the 2020 NBA draft?
My second winner of the 2020 NBA draft is probably the Charlotte Hornets. I know they had a high pick. They got LaMelo Ball, who I think was the best player in that draft. This is the first time the Hornets have a franchise stud who like the world's gonna watch. Kind of, he's just very popular, which is good for the Hornets franchise. Kind of put them back on the map. The last time they had a stud was probably Kemba Walker, and as we see, like he's a very good player, but he's not like I don't consider him a franchise player, like a franchise star on your team. But Ball's 6'7". He was definitely the best passer in the draft, I think. He's got to work on his shooting, but he's shown that he has the range. He just doesn't have the efficiency. And then you pair him alongside Devontae Graham, like PJ Washington. I understand it's definitely a step up for the Hornets. They definitely have to add pieces around him. But now they finally have their franchise 6'7" point guard who's highly touted. I think he's definitely the best player in this draft. And that's a win for me. The Hornets are a franchise. He's been like a 9 seed for the past 10 years, it feels like. So for them to finally have their player, Michael Jordan's working with him now. Yeah, no, I'm definitely high on LaMelo. Hopefully he gets that efficiency up for shooting, but I think his passing ability is very, very good. So I'm happy for him, and I think this Charlotte Hornets got their franchise player.
I agree with you. You can't go wrong with LaMelo. After he kind of fell perfectly for the Charlotte Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my second winner is the Sacramento Kings, and I just raved about the guy they took. That's Tyrese Haliburton. They took him at 12, and I know De'Aaron Fox, his future in Sacramento is still a little up in the air. Buddy Hield doesn't know if he wants to be in Sacramento. You have Marvin Bagley. I feel like this team is still rebuilding where they shouldn't be still rebuilding. But taking Tyrese Haliburton at 12, I think you get a future point guard. Him and De'Aaron Fox I think would be cool together. I don't know if it would be an amazing fit, but I think it could work. And then Buddy Hield could work if Buddy Hield decides to stay in Sacramento. They missed on Devin Vassell, who's a shooting guard at number 11, who went to the Spurs, who were a great pick by the Spurs, I thought. But yeah, I think Tyrese Haliburton, I've loved Tyrese Haliburton. I think my two favorite players outside of Patrick Williams, because I'm a Bulls fan, I gotta make my favorite player now, but are Killian Hayes and Tyrese Haliburton in this draft. I think those are the outside like Anthony Edwards, James Wiseman. Like that's just an easy pick to say your favorite NBA player. But in this draft, but I love Killian Hayes and I love Tyrese Haliburton. I think he's a future star at the point guard position. He's tall. He's not undersized. He can pass first. He can defend. I see him. I already said bigger Chris Paul for Tyrese Haliburton. So the Kings, you're my winner. You also took Robert Woodward at 40 and Jamias Ramsey 43. Robert Woodward went to Mississippi State and Ramsey went to 43. Went 43 out of Texas Tech. Not really huge. Don't really know much about those guys, but the biggest thing for the Kings taking Tyrese Haliburton at 12, I thought that was an absolute steal. As I saw him kept falling, I'm like, man, whoever gets him past like this point, that could be a good pick. I think Tyrese Haliburton he might be my favorite to win Rookie of the Year as of right now, but I like him. Him and Killian Hayes, Pistons, tall point guards. They're huge. You get tall like at the Hornets, a tall point guard in LaMelo Ball, Killian Hayes, Tyrese Haliburton. It goes a long way because you can defend multiple positions. You can rebound. So yeah, Kings are my second winner.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with you. And let's say Buddy Hield doesn't stay, and you got your start at shooting guard, 1-2 punch with him and Fox, and then you got Marvin Bagley set for the future.
Mhm.
I agree with that. And kind of going off what you were talking about, my second loser of the draft is the Phoenix Suns for passing on a guy like Tyrese and taking Jalen Smith. With no hate to Jalen Smith, he's a good player. I think number 10's reaching for him. He could be he's a solid player, but number 10, I think, is pushing it a little bit. They reached last year's draft with Cam Johnson at 10. And that's why I'm a little wary with this pick, because you picked Cam Johnson last year. You have DeAndre Ayton. So those are two players that you have plans for in the future. And then you pick another one to back them up, which that didn't make sense to me. And then for Chris Paul, he's definitely not for the future, but for right now, he's a solid, really good starting point guard. But then your backup is like Eli Akobo or someone like that. So if you pick Tyrese, then you could be running Chris Paul, Tyrese, Devin Booker, Cam Johnson, and Ayton on the floor at the same time, and really change things up for other teams, opposing teams. And you saw Chris Paul did it with the Thunder. He had Chris Paul, Shai Gilgeous, who's kind of like a Tyrese Haliburton, and then you got Dennis Schroeder. So they always ran that 3 guard at the Thunder, and it works really well. So I was a little taken back with the Jalen Smith pick because I don't see a fit for him there. Yeah, coming off the bench, or maybe possibly starting at the 4. I don't see him starting at the 5 anytime in the future, because you made your first pick in the draft in 2018, DeAndre Ayton. So I want to know where they see the fit for Jalen Smith and see him in their future, because he's a very good player. He could shoot threes, he could defend, he could block shots. But I just think Tyrese fit their needs better than Jalen Smith.
Yeah, I agree with you. My second loser was the Phoenix Suns as well, and I think it's more like similar to the Knicks. Like Jalen Smith, a safe pick. Nothing wrong with Jalen Smith at number 10. I think Tyrese Halliburton would amazing. Like I had him in my mock draft going number 10 to the Phoenix, and I'm like, if he gets to number 10, which I didn't think he would get to number 10 at
Hmm.
most points of the draft, the Suns hit a home run because you've got a point guard. I know Chris Paul isn't there right now, but you could also run a backcourt with, like you said, Chris Paul, Tyrese, Devin Booker, Ayton, and Cam Johnson. That's a cool backcourt right there. And like I think even if he came off the bench, Tyrese, he's just I think I compare him to Chris Paul. So if you're gonna compare someone, then why not have him mentor him? Like that's awesome. Learn behind Chris Paul for a year. Chris Paul is a pass first defend point guard. Tyrese is the same thing, but much taller. So I think Tyrese projects to be like a Chris Paul, but taller. Chris Paul. Don't understand the Jalen Smith pick. It's like the Knicks pick. Why do we need? How many big men do we need? Like
Yeah.
he's not a three. There's a difference if they took a three. I wouldn't have been mine if like let's say Denny fell to 10 and they took Denny. Like I think that would have been fine. They needed a three, or if Patrick Williams eventually got there, or some like guys like a Cora or somebody if they obviously they got there, but taking a 4 or a 5. Obviously, you have Ayton, who's a great NBA player. Cam Johnson, he could play the 3, could play the 4. He's tall, and he's also like he played a lot of years in college. So did Jalen Smith. So like these are old college players. Nothing wrong with that, but I think taking Tyrese would have been amazing. I think the two teams not taking Tyrese. The biggest thing I think take away not taking Tyrese Halliburton for the Knicks and the Suns made them huge losers, and the Kings props to them for taking him.
Yeah, definitely agree. And plus, don't they have like Dario Saric at the forward too?
Yeah, they have him
So
too.
yeah,
There was no.
yeah,
They could have traded back for Jalen Smith. I thought actually, and got like an
Mhm.
extra first round pick or something. If some
Yeah.
or future
10,
draft
10 was a 10 was a reach for him. I think I had him.
I had him going like 20s, and I think future they could have got future capital, a young player, another draft pick, whatever the heck you get for Jalen Smith. And if you trade back and take Jalen Smith at like 18 or 19 and get a future first round pick,
Yeah.
that might be a winner. You might be a winner of the draft.
Plus, you're paying. Yeah, plus, you're paying him less because you're picking him later.
Exactly. And then
Yeah.
Suns get 2 first round picks next year. That's not a bad thing. Okay. Those are our winners and losers. We did a little NBA draft recap, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't checked out our Apple Podcast, link will be in the description. We do a weekly NFL preview. We're dropping some NBA previews because the season is right around the corner. I know it just ended, but it's right around the corner. Expect to see a couple interviews on the YouTube channel coming up. I know I have one interview coming up. I'm not going to announce it, but I got an interview coming up with some player. I know me and Jared have talked about it already. But guys, remember, this was episode 20 of the Talking Sports podcast. I'm your host, Peter DiBiasi, along with John Rocco Trumpbour. Jerry, anything you got to say before we sign out?
Just please don't forget to subscribe. Really appreciate it. Let's get us to 600.
Yep. Make sure you guys subscribe, like, and comment. And like and comment if you agree with us on our winners and losers. If you disagree, drop a comment. Make sure you always drop a like. Until next time, this is the Talking Sports podcast, episode 20 with Peter DiBiasi and John Rocco Trumpbour. Thank you.